Keanu Reeves sat in his office on the third floor of Arch Productions headquarters in Burbank, staring at an email that had arrived in his personal inbox 3 hours ago. The subject line read simply, "You need to know the truth." No signature, no return address that meant anything. Just a Gmail account with a random string of numbers. The message itself was brief. Your company is not what you think it is. People are suffering. The culture is toxic. But you'll never hear about it through official channels because the people in charge are the problem. If you want to know what's really happening, you need to see it yourself. Don't trust your management team. He'd read it a dozen times, trying to decide if it was credible or just someone with an axe to grind. Anonymous complaints were tricky. Could be legitimate whistleblowing. Could be a disgruntled employee making things up. Could be corporate espionage from a competitor trying to damage his reputation. No way to know without more information. But it nagged at him. Had been nagging at him for months, actually. Small things he'd noticed. A young actress who'd suddenly left a project with no explanation. And when he'd asked his VP of development about it, the answer had been vague. Creative differences. She wasn't right for the role. But the actress had been excited about the part, had talked about it passionately during her audition. The sudden departure didn't fit. Then there was the assistant director who'd quit after 2 weeks. Keanu had met him briefly, seemed like a solid guy, experienced professional. But he'd submitted his resignation without even finishing his first project. The exit interview, conducted by HR, cited personal reasons and family obligations. Generic, suspicious, and the turnover rate. Keanu had looked at the numbers last month. 23% annual turnover. For a production company, that was high. Not catastrophic, but higher than it should be. Higher than it had been 3 years ago, when turnover was around 12%. Something had changed. His door opened. David Chun, his lawyer and friend of 15 years, walked in carrying 2 coffees. David was 48, Chinese-American, had been with Keanu through every major contract negotiation, every business deal, every legal complication of complicated career. "You look troubled. What's going on?" Keanu turned his laptop around, showed David the email. David read it, his expression neutral, then read it again. No specifics. Could be anything. I know. But David, I've been feeling like something's off. Little things. People leaving. Complaints that get dismissed too quickly. I ask questions and get smooth answers that don't quite add up. You want to investigate? Yes. But formally, through HR? If the problem is in HR, that goes nowhere. They'll just cover their tracks. David sat down, sipped his coffee. What are you thinking? I'm thinking I need to see it myself. Not as Keanu Reeves, owner and public face, but as someone who's actually there on the ground when people think no one's watching. You want to go undercover? Yes. David was quiet for a long moment. That's insane. You're one of the most recognizable people on the planet. You can't just blend in. I'm an actor. It's literally what I do. Change appearance. Become someone else. In movies, with lighting and camera angles and editing. This would be real life, real people, extended exposure. Someone will recognize you. Not if I do it right. Not if I'm someone people don't expect to see. Someone invisible. David raised an eyebrow. Invisible. Support staff. Maintenance. Security. Someone who's there, but no one really looks at. Someone people talk around because they forget you're in the room. A janitor. You want to be a janitor. Night shift. Clean offices after hours. People stay late. They talk when they think no one's listening. They leave documents on desks. They have conversations they wouldn't have during business hours. David put his coffee down, rubbed his face with both hands. Keanu, this is crazy. The liability alone. What if you get hurt? What if you're exposed? What if it turns out there's nothing wrong and you've just invaded your employees' privacy for no reason? Then I'll know, and I can stop worrying. But David, if something is wrong, if people are suffering in a company that I built to be different, to be better than the usual Hollywood exploitation, I need to fix it. And I can't fix what I can't see. How long are you thinking? 2 weeks. That's a standard pay period. Long enough to see patterns. Not so long that I'm neglecting everything else. You're supposed to be in New York next month for that press junket. I'll schedule this before then. 2 weeks, starting next Monday. I'll keep my regular schedule during the day when needed, do the undercover work at night. I could survive on less sleep for 2 weeks. David was silent, thinking. Keanu knew that silence. It meant David was running through legal implications, trying to find angles, assess risks. Finally, David spoke. If we do this, if we need rules, safety protocols, you check in with me every night. You don't confront anyone alone if you find something. You document everything legally. And you have an extraction plan if things go wrong. Agreed. And we need to think about how you'll be hired. It has to be legitimate. Can't have it come out later that you faked employment records. There's that agency, Reliable Building Services. They provide cleaning staff for us and a bunch of other companies. Can we work through them? We need to bring their manager in on it. More people who know increases risk, but it creates legitimate paperwork. I'd actually be employed by them, assigned to Arch Productions. Everything above board. David nodded slowly. I'll reach out, discreetly, feel them out. If they're willing, we can structure it so there's minimal exposure. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Thank me if we pull this off without it blowing up in our faces. After David left, Keanu sat alone in his office, looking out at the Burbank skyline. The sun was setting, casting orange light across the buildings. Somewhere in this city, in this company he'd built, people might be suffering, might be exploited or harassed or worked beyond human limits. In his name, under his brand, using his reputation as cover for things he'd never condone. The thought made him sick. He'd started Arch Productions 8 years ago with specific values. Treat people well, pay fairly, create opportunities for underrepresented voices, make films that mattered. Somewhere along the way, if this email was true, those values had been corrupted, and he'd been too absent, too trusting, too focused on his acting career to notice. That ended now. His phone buzzed. A text from his sister Kim. Dinner Sunday? Sam wants to tell you about his new film project. Sam was Kim's son, Keanu's nephew. 16 years old, obsessed with filmmaking. Good kid, passionate. Reminded Keanu of himself at that age. He texted back. Definitely. 6 p.m. your place. Perfect. Love you. Love you too. Family. That's what this was about. Arch Productions was supposed to be family. A place where people took care of each other. Where talent was nurtured. Where the work mattered more than profit, though profit was necessary to keep making the work. If that family was broken, he'd fix it, whatever it took. His computer dinged. Email from David. Meeting set up with Reliable Building Services Manager. Tomorrow 10 a.m., his office. Very discreet. He sounds intrigued. Keanu typed back. I'll be there. He spent the next 2 hours researching what janitors actually did. The job requirements. The physical demands. The equipment. He needed to be convincing. Couldn't just show up and fumble through it. People would notice. Even if they didn't recognize his face, they'd notice incompetence. He watched YouTube videos of commercial cleaning techniques. How to properly vacuum. How to clean bathrooms. How to empty trash efficiently. How to use floor buffers. It was more complex than he'd expected. There was craft to it. Efficiency. Systems. Around 8 p.m., he drove home to his house in the Hollywood Hills. Small by celebrity standards, but it was his sanctuary. Books everywhere. Motorcycles in the garage. Quiet. Private. Safe. He made dinner. Simple pasta. Ate alone at his kitchen counter, thinking about the plan. The risks. The potential rewards. If he found nothing, great. He'd have peace of mind and a new appreciation for how hard janitors worked. If he found something, he'd have to act. Fire people. Possibly face lawsuits. Definitely deal with public relations fallout. But he'd also save people from suffering. Would rebuild the company culture into what it was supposed to be. That was worth the risk. His phone rang. David again. I'm having second thoughts. Why? Because this is dangerous in ways beyond physical safety. If you find real problems, you're going to have to expose them. That means firing people. Some of those people might be connected, might have friends in media, might spin this to make you look bad. Let them. I'd rather look bad and do the right thing than look good while people suffer. I know. That's why you're you and most people aren't. But Keanu, be prepared. This might get ugly. It's already ugly if what that email suggested is true. We're just going to expose the ugliness that's hidden. David sighed. Okay. Meeting tomorrow at 10. Get some sleep. You're going to need it. After hanging up, Keanu sat on his back deck, looking at the lights of Los Angeles spread out below. 8 million people. 8 million stories. Some struggling. Some thriving. Some suffering in silence. Tomorrow he'd start the process of becoming someone else. Someone invisible. Someone who could see the truth. He thought about his career. 25 years of acting. Playing heroes, villains, everything in between. But this felt different. More important than any role. Because the people he might save were real. Their suffering was real. And the responsibility was his. He'd built this company. Put his name on it. Benefited from its success. That meant the failures were his too. The harm done in his name was harm he needed to answer for. Tomorrow, the transformation would begin. Keanu Reeves would temporarily cease to exist. In his place would be a janitor. Someone ordinary. Someone forgettable. Someone who could move through the building unseen and hear the truths that only emerged in darkness. He finished his tea, went inside, tried to sleep. His mind raced. Plans. Contingencies. What he might find. What he'd do if he found it. How he'd fix things. How he'd make sure this never happened again. Around 2 a.m., he finally drifted off. Dreamed of empty hallways and voices in the dark. Dreamed of people suffering while he'd been absent. Dreamed of justice and transformation and the hard work of making things right. When his alarm went off at 6, he woke with purpose. Today he'd take the first step. By this time next week, he'd be someone else. And maybe, if luck was with him, he'd find the truth. Whatever that truth turned out to be. The Office of Reliable Building Services was in a strip mall in Van Nuys, wedged between a bail bondsman and a check-cashing place. Not glamorous, but functional. Keanu pulled his motorcycle into the parking lot at 9:50 a.m., 10 minutes early. David was already there, leaning against his Tesla, looking uncomfortable in the surroundings. "You sure about this?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway." They walked into the office. A bell chimed. The reception area was small, worn furniture, outdated magazines, a water cooler that had seen better days. A woman in her 50s sat behind a desk, typing on a computer that was at least a decade old. "Can I help you?" "We have a meeting with Robert Salazar." 10 o'clock. She looked at them, her eyes widening slightly as she recognized Keanu, then professionally composed herself. One moment, she disappeared through a door behind her desk. Keanu and David waited. On the wall were framed licenses and certifications, commercial cleaning permits, insurance documentation, photos of cleaning crews at various job sites, people who made their living making other people's spaces functional. The woman returned. "Mr. Salazar will see you now." They followed her into a back office. Robert Salazar stood from behind a cluttered desk. He was 62, Mexican-American, thick gray hair, weathered face, strong handshake. He'd built this business from nothing 30 years ago, David had said. Employed 200 people. Good reputation. "Mr. Reeves, Mr. Chun, this is unexpected. Please sit." They sat in 2 chairs across from his desk. Robert remained standing for a moment, studying them, then sat himself. "David told me you have an unusual request, but not the details. I am intrigued." Keanu leaned forward. "What I'm about to tell you stays in this room. If you're not comfortable with it, we walk away, no hard feelings, and you never speak of it." "Agreed." "Agreed. I need to work undercover as a janitor in my own company. Night shift, 2 weeks. I need real employment paperwork, real placement, but absolute secrecy." Robert didn't react immediately, just looked at Keanu processing. Then he spoke carefully. "What? I've received information that suggests problems at my company. Toxic culture, possible abuse. I can't verify it through normal channels because the people I'd normally ask might be part of the problem. I need to see for myself. Why not hire a private investigator? Because I want to see it firsthand. And because investigators are outsiders. People behave differently around them. I need to be invisible. Someone people don't think twice about." Robert nodded slowly. "A janitor is invisible. I've known that my whole life. People talk around us like we're furniture. It's why I tell my employees to be professional, keep confidences. We hear things." "Exactly. What you're asking puts me in a difficult position. If this goes wrong, if you're exposed, my company is associated with it. That could damage my reputation. Cost me contracts. Understand. Which is why I'm prepared to compensate you significantly for the risk. And why we'll have ironclad legal agreements protecting your company. David pulled out a folder, slid it across the desk. These are the proposed terms. You'd place Mr. Reeves as a night janitor at Arch Productions. Real employment contract, real paperwork. He'd be paid the standard rate for the position. You'd receive a consulting fee of $50,000 for your discretion and cooperation. If anything goes wrong, legal protections ensure your company isn't liable. Robert opened the folder, read through the documents. Took his time. Keanu waited, letting him process. This was a big ask. He was asking someone to lie, essentially, to create a cover story, to risk their business for someone else's investigation. Finally, Robert looked up. I have one question. Are you doing this for publicity? For some reality show or a documentary? No, this is private. No cameras. No media. Just me trying to understand what's happening in my company. And if you find problems, what then? I fix them. Fire people if necessary. Reform policies. Make it right. You'd actually fire your own management team? If they've been abusing people, absolutely. Without hesitation. Robert studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay, I'll do it. Not for the money, though I won't turn it down. But because of what you suspect is true, people are suffering. And I've spent 30 years in this industry watching people in power ignore the suffering of workers because it's inconvenient. If you're actually willing to do something about it, I'll help. Keanu felt relief wash over him. Thank you. But we do this, right? You'll go through basic training tomorrow. 3 hours. I'll teach you myself. You need to know how to do the job properly, or people will notice. Then you start Monday. Night shift, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Your supervisor will be Gloria Martinez. She's been with me 12 years. Solid. Professional. She can't know who you are, so you'll need to be convincing. I will be. What name do you want on the paperwork? Keanu had thought about this. Kalbawa. KRL, Eastern European last name, but vague. Hard to place. Born in Romania, immigrated 20 years ago. Widower. No kids. Been working janitorial jobs for 2 decades. Quiet. Keeps to himself. Robert wrote it down. Age, 58. Close enough to your real age that you don't have to act too different. Good. Accent, slight. Generic Eastern European. I've done it in films. I can maintain it. What about appearance? You're pretty recognizable. I'll handle that. Hair, facial hair, glasses, posture. By the time I'm done, my own mother wouldn't recognize me. Robert smiled slightly. You're serious about this? Completely. They spent the next hour going through logistics. Background story. Emergency contacts. What to do if someone got suspicious. How to communicate with David without blowing cover. Exit strategies. When they finally left, Keanu felt the weight of it settling on him. This was real now. Not just an idea, but an actual plan with actual steps. In 4 days, he'd walk into Arch Productions as someone else. And depending on what he found, nothing might ever be the same. David drove him back to his motorcycle. You still have time to back out. I'm not backing out. I figured. So what's next? I need to transform. Bakul Makalbawa. You need help with that? I know someone. Makeup artist I've worked with on films. Discreet. Talented. I'll call her. Keanu, be careful. This isn't a movie. You can't yell cut if things go wrong. I know. But David, I have to do this. I can't just wonder. Can't just hope things are okay. I need to know. David nodded, got back in his car. Keanu mounted his motorcycle, rode home through midday traffic, his mind already shifting, starting to think in character. Kalbawa. Immigrant. Widower. Hardworking. Tired. Invisible. At home, he called Michelle Torres, a makeup artist he'd worked with on 3 films. She'd done prosthetics, age makeup, complete transformations. If anyone could make him unrecognizable, she could. Michelle, it's Keanu. I need your help with something unusual. Can you come to my house tomorrow? Private consultation. Very discreet. Of course. What we doing? Making me disappear. She laughed. Mysterious. I like it. 10 a.m. work. Perfect. Thank you. After hanging up, Keanu went to his closet, pulled out old clothes. Worn jeans, plain t-shirts, flannel shirts, work boots, the costume of ordinary life. He tried different combinations, looking at himself in the mirror, trying to see Carl instead of Keanu. Not quite right yet. Still too polished. Too movie star. He needed to roughen the edges. Look more tired. More worn by life. He spent the afternoon researching, reading about Romanian immigration to the U.S. Common names. Cultural details. He needed the background to feel real, even if no one asked. Because if someone did ask, hesitation would give him away. That evening, he practiced the accent. Slight, not overdone. Just enough to suggest non-native speaker without being distracting. He recorded himself, played it back, adjusted. Did again, and again, until it sounded natural. His phone rang around 8. His agent, Melissa Tran. Keanu, we need to talk about the New York schedule. The press junket is in 3 weeks. We have interviews stacked, appearances, the whole thing. I know. I'll be there. You sound distracted. Everything okay? Just think about a role. New character. Trying to get into his head. What film? Personal project. Still developing. I'll tell you more once further along. Okay. Well, don't disappear on me. You have obligations. I won't. Talk soon. He hung up, feeling the lie sitting uncomfortably. But necessary. The fewer people who knew, the better. Every person added was another potential leak. The next morning, Michelle arrived at 10 sharp. She came in carrying 2 large cases of supplies. They set up in his bathroom, the largest mirror. So what are we doing? I need to look completely different. Older. Working class. Someone you'd pass on the street and never think twice about. For how long? 2 weeks. Okay, that's doable. Normally for film, we do daily applications. But if you need something that holds up for extended wear, we'll do it differently. More permanent. Hair dye. Facial hair that's actually attached, not just glued on each day. Whatever works. I need to be able to shower, sleep, live as this person. Michelle studied his face, touching his cheekbones, his jaw, his forehead. Professional assessment. Let's start with hair. Shorter, gray. We'll do a quality wig, but one that's designed for long-term wear. Lace front, blend with your skin. Then facial hair. Full mustache, some beard. Also gray. Contact lenses to change eye color. Glasses with thick frames. And we'll work on posture, body language. They started. 3 hours of transformation. Haircut and cover with a gray wig that looked completely natural. Facial hair carefully applied with medical-grade adhesive that would last weeks. Brown contacts covering his distinctive dark eyes. Glasses that changed the shape of his face. Michelle stepped back, looked at him. Wow. Okay, yeah. I don't recognize you. Keanu looked in the mirror. Saw a stranger. Kyle Bauer. 58. Tired eyes. Gray hair. Working man who'd seen better days. He hunched his shoulders slightly, changed his posture. The transformation was complete. This is incredible. You can shower with this. Sleep. Live normally. Just be gentle. The facial hair will need some touch-ups after about a week. The wig will stay secure, but avoid excessive heat. And when you're done, come back and I'll help you remove it all safely. Thank you, Michelle. Seriously, I don't know what you're doing, and I'm not going to ask. But be careful. You're someone important to a lot of people. Don't get hurt. After she left, Keanu sat in his house, looking at himself in every mirror. Walked around. Practiced moving as Carl. Slower. More tired. Like someone who'd worked manual labor for decades. Like someone whose body ached. That afternoon, he drove to Van Nuys for training with Robert. Walked into the office as Carl. The receptionist didn't recognize him. Just nodded, told him to go back. Robert looked up when he entered, did a double take. Damn, that's good. I wouldn't have known. That's the idea. They spent 3 hours going through janitorial work. Robert showed him how to properly vacuum, moving in efficient patterns. How to clean bathrooms quickly but thoroughly. How to empty trash without making a mess. How to use floor buffers, though he probably wouldn't need that skill. The key is efficiency. You're paid by the shift, not the hour, so finishing faster doesn't help you. But doing it right means fewer complaints. Gloria will show you the specific layout at Arch, but these are universal principles. Keanu took notes. Ask questions. treated it seriously, because it was serious. If he fumbled, if he looked incompetent, people would pay attention. The goal was to be invisible, and invisible meant competent but unremarkable. By the end, his back ached. His knees hurt, just from 3 hours of practice. The real shifts would be 8 hours. For 2 weeks. He wasn't as young as he used to be. This was going to be physically demanding. Robert handed him a uniform. Dark blue work shirt, dark pants, comfortable shoes. Wear this Monday. Get there at 9:45. Gloria will meet you, show you the ropes. Your first week is basically training while working. She'll keep an eye on you. Make sure you're doing okay. What did you tell her about me? That you're new hire. Experienced but new to this specific site. Keep to yourself, bit of a loner. She knows to give you space. Perfect. Driving home, Keanu felt the reality of it. Monday was 4 days away. For days until he became Carl Bauer for real. For days to prepare mentally for what he might find. That night, he barely slept. Lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about his company. The people who work there. The ones who might be suffering. The ones he'd failed by not paying attention. Sunday, he had dinner with his sister and nephew as planned. Showed up as himself, no disguise. Kim looked at him carefully. You okay? You seem tense. Just work stuff. Nothing serious. You're lying. I can always tell. But if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. Sam, his nephew, talked enthusiastically about a short film he wanted to make. High school project, but he was treating it seriously. Storyboards, shot lists, casting his friends. Can I shadow you on a film set sometime? I want to see how it really works. Absolutely. Let me get through the next few weeks, then we'll set something up. Thanks, Uncle Keanu. You're the best. Later, helping Kim clean up in the kitchen, she spoke quietly. Sam looks up to you so much. Just don't disappear on him, okay? He needs that relationship. I won't. I promise. Good. Because you're the stable male figure in his life. After his dad left, you stepped up. That matters. Keanu felt the weight of responsibility. Not just to his company, to strangers, but to family. To people who depended on him being present. Being reliable. Monday morning came too fast. Keanu woke at 6, made coffee, sat on his deck watching the sunrise. Today was the day. In 15 hours, he'd walk into Arch Productions as Carl Bauer, and his investigation would begin. He spent the day preparing. Went to the gym, knowing he'd need stamina. Ate well. Tried to nap, but couldn't sleep. Nervous energy. Around 8 p.m., he put on Carl's uniform. The wig, the facial hair, the glasses. Looked in the mirror one last time. Keanu Reeves was gone. Carl Bauer looked back. He drove to Burbank, parked in a lot 3 blocks from Arch Productions. Didn't want his motorcycle recognizable near the building. Walked the last bit. Arrived at 9:45, right on time. The lobby was empty except for night security. A man in his 30s, reading a magazine. He looked up. Help you. I'm Carl Bauer, new janitor. Starting tonight. The guard checked a list. Yeah, okay. Head to the service entrance, basement level. Someone named Gloria is supposed to meet you. Keanu took the stairs down. Found the service entrance. Waited. 5 minutes later, a woman appeared. Gloria Martinez. 45, Latina, tired eyes but kind face. She carried a clipboard. Khalid. Yes. Good to meet you. Gloria Martinez. I'm a night supervisor. You'll be working with me and 2 others. Luis and Chun. They're already upstairs starting. I'll show you around, explain how we do things here. Her voice was professional but warm, like someone who'd done this a long time and had learned to be efficient while still being human. Thank you. I appreciate it. They started walking. Gloria explained the layout. 4 floors, different areas each night. Tonight they do floors 2 and 3. Tomorrow floors 1 and 4. Rotating schedule. You ever worked in an office building before? Yes. Many times. Different companies. Good. It's all pretty similar. Empty trash, vacuum, clean bathrooms, and break rooms. Most people are gone by 7, but some stay late. Don't bother them. Just work around them. They don't like being reminded we exist. That last sentence hit Keanu. Invisible. That's what Gloria and her team were. Necessary, but ignored. Present, but unseen. They reached the 2nd floor. Started with a supply closet. Gloria showed him where everything was. Trash bag, cleaning solution, vacuum. Basic stuff, but she was thorough. Any questions so far? No. This is clear. Thank you. Okay, let's start with the bathrooms. Least favorite part of the job, but it's got to be done. They cleaned the second floor bathrooms together. Gloria explaining her system. Efficient, methodical. Keanu followed her lead, doing his best to keep up. His back already starting to ache from bending, scrubbing. Around 11, they moved to the offices. Most were dark and empty. But on the third floor, Gloria pointed to a conference room where lights were still on. Development team. They're always here late. Just empty their trash cans, don't vacuum near them. Do that tomorrow when they're gone. Keanu pushed his cart closer, looked through the glass walls of the conference room, saw 3 people inside, young, maybe mid-20s, looking exhausted. Papers spread everywhere. Coffee cups multiplying. One of them, a young woman, had her head on the table. The other 2 were arguing about something. Their voices muted by the glass, but the tension obvious. Keanu emptied a trash can nearby, invisible to them. Heard fragments of conversation. Ronan wants the pitch completely redone. Again, 3rd time this week. I haven't slept in 36 hours. None of us have. But if we don't finish this, he'll lose it. Ronan Casey, Keanu's VP of development. One of his top people. Trusted. Supposedly brilliant. But making junior staff work 36 hours straight? Keanu moved on, following Gloria. Made a mental note. First data point. First red flag. They worked through the night. Floor by floor. Room by room. Physical work that never stopped. Empty this, wipe that, vacuum here. By 3 a.m., Keanu's body was screaming. He wasn't used to this. The constant movement. The repetitive motion. The bending and lifting. But he kept going. Watched. Listened. At 4 a.m., they took a break. Sat in the basement break room. Gloria made coffee in an old machine that looked like it might break any minute. How you holding up? Tired, but okay. First night is always hard. Your body adjusts. By next week, you won't even think about it. Luis and Chin joined them. Both in their 40s, both quiet. They nodded at Keanu, didn't ask questions. Just drank coffee and rested their feet. Gloria looked at them. Carl's new. Seems solid. Luis grunted approval. Chin smiled slightly. That was apparently enough of a welcome. At 6 a.m., the shift ended. Keanu walked out into the early morning light, feeling like he'd been hit by a truck. Every muscle ached. His feet throbbed. His back was stiff. And this was day 1 of 14. He drove home, showered carefully, keeping the wig and facial hair dry as Michelle had instructed. Fell into bed and slept until 2 in the afternoon. When he woke, there was a text from David. How did it go? Keanu typed back. Exhausting. But I'm in. Already seeing things. Be careful. Always. That night, he went back. And the night after. And the night after that. Each shift, he learned more. Heard more. Saw more. Pieces of a picture he didn't like. The young staff working brutal hours. The casual cruelty of some managers. The way people talked when they thought no one was listening. The truth was emerging. And it was worse than he'd feared. By the 4th night, Keanu had established a rhythm. Arrive at 9:45. Check in with Gloria. Start with the second floor bathrooms. Work methodically through offices. Stay invisible. Listen. The invisibility was easier than he'd expected. People really didn't see janitors. They'd walk right past him in hallways without a glance. Have conversations on their phones while he emptied trash 3 feet away. Leave documents on desks. Personal belongings visible, as if he wasn't a person who could see or remember or care. It was dehumanizing and enlightening. Tonight, Thursday, he was working the 3rd floor again, the executive level, where the VP offices were located, where decisions got made, where if there was corruption, it would originate. Gloria had given him this floor alone. You're doing good work, Carl. I trust you up here. Just be extra careful. Don't touch anything on desks. Don't move papers. These people are particular. He nodded, pushed his cart toward the elevator. 3rd floor was quieter than the others. Thick carpet, expensive art on walls. The offices larger, with better furniture. This was where the money lived. The first office belonged to Tanya Miller, VP of production. Her space was neat, organized. Photos of film sets on the walls. Awards on shelves. Nothing unusual. Keanu emptied her trash, vacuumed, moved on. Next was Ronan Casey's office. VP of Development. The man whose name kept coming up. Whose team worked impossible hours. Whose demands seemed endless. The office was a mess. Papers everywhere. Coffee cups stacked like a modern art installation. Trash overflowing. Keanu started with the trash, pulling the bag out carefully. As he did, something fell out. A document. He picked it up to throw it back, but the header caught his eye. Termination list. Approved by end of quarter. He shouldn't look. Knew he shouldn't. But he did. 12 names. All junior staff. Next to each name, a reason. Performance issues. Attitude problems. Not a culture fit. But Keanu recognized some of these names. Emily Chun, junior editor. He'd met her at a company event 6 months ago. Smart, enthusiastic, talented. What performance issues? Sarah Kim, associate producer. Young, hardworking. What attitude problems? He pulled out his phone, snapped a photo. Hand shaking slightly. This was evidence. Not conclusive, but suggestive. A pattern of targeting junior staff. He threw the document back in the trash, finished emptying it. Moved to vacuum. As he worked, he noticed Ronan's computer was on. Screensaver running, but on. Careless. Or arrogant. Probably arrogant. Keanu knew he shouldn't. Knew it crossed a line. But he'd come here for truth. And truth was sometimes hidden in places you weren't supposed to look. He glanced at the door. Hallway empty. Touched the mouse. Screen came to life. Email open. Outlook inbox. Dozens of unread messages. He scrolled quickly, looking for anything relevant. There, an email thread between Ronan and Tamara Briscoe, the HR director. Subject line, Emily Chun situation. Ronan's email, handle the Emily Chun problem. She's threatening to go to the press about ours. We need leverage. Find something on her. Anything. We need her gone quietly. Tamara's response, she's clean. Perfect record. But I can manufacture something. Fake performance complaints. Make her feel like she's failing. She'll resign rather than be fired. Keanu felt sick. Manufactured complaints. Intentional psychological manipulation. This wasn't just bad management. This was systematic abuse. He took photos of the email thread. Several messages back and forth. All painting the same picture. HR working with management to silence complaints rather than address them. Footsteps in the hallway. Keanu quickly touched the mouse, brought the screensaver back, grabbed his vacuum, turned it on. Just a janitor doing his job. The footsteps passed. Whoever it was didn't even look in. He was invisible. He finished Ronan's office, moved to the next. Marcus Gray, CFO, Chief Financial Officer. Numbers guy. Keanu had hired him 3 years ago based on stellar recommendations. Harvard MBA. Previous CFO at a successful indie production company. Seemed solid. Marcus's office was locked. Unusual. Most executives left offices open for cleaning. Keanu tried his master key, the one Gloria had given him for locked spaces. It worked. Inside, the office was dark. He flipped on the light. Neat desk. Filing cabinets. Computer off. Nothing obviously wrong. He started with the trash. As he emptied the bin under the desk, he heard voices. Coming from the conference room next door. The walls were thin here. He could make out words. Marcus's voice. The payment went through. 50 grand wired to the offshore account like you asked. Another voice. Ronan. Good. That should secure us the distribution deal. Reeves will never know. These expenses are buried deep in the marketing budget. What if the auditor finds it? They won't. And if they do, we'll say it was a mistake. We'll fix it, return the money. Worst case, we get a slap on the wrist. Reeves is too soft to actually do anything. Laughter. Both of them laughing. At him. At his trust. At his supposed softness. Keanu pulled out his phone, started recording. Held it near the wall, capturing the conversation. They talked for another 5 minutes. About other creative accounting. About vendors they'd overcharged and pocketed the difference. About expense reports that were inflated. Embezzlement. Fraud. Criminal activity. In his company. Using his name. His reputation as cover. When the voices stopped, Keanu quickly finished the office, got out. His hands shaking now. Not from fear, from anger. These people he'd trusted, had hired, had given authority, they were stealing from him, abusing employees, and laughing about it. He continued his rounds. Tried to calm down, needed to stay in character, couldn't let emotion compromise the mission. 2 more floors to clean. Had to finish the shift. Around 2 a.m., he was working the 2nd floor again, near the women's bathroom. He heard crying. Soft, trying to be quiet. Someone in there trying not to be heard. He knocked gently. "Miss, I need to clean. You okay?" Silence. Then a stall door opened. A young woman emerged. Mid-20s, Asian, red eyes from crying. She looked startled to see him, embarrassed. "I'm Yufine. I was just leaving. You sure?" Keanu kept his voice gentle, his accent in place. "A lot of people cry here at night. I see it. You're not alone." She looked at him, surprised that a janitor was talking to her like a person. "It's just been a really hard week. Want to talk?" "I'm just janitor. Nobody important. Sometimes it's easier to talk to nobody." She hesitated. Then, maybe because he looked safe, like a grandfather, she spoke. "They're working me 80 hours a week. No overtime because I'm salaried. My boss screams at me every day, calls me incompetent, but I'm afraid to quit because this is my first real job in the industry. If I leave, my career is over before it starts. Why you not go to HR?" She laughed bitterly. "HR here isn't here to protect us. They protect the company. They protect the managers. If you complain, you get marked. Targeted. It's better to just endure." "How long you been here?" 8 months. It was good at first, but after about 3 months, everything changed. My boss got worse. The hours got longer. The expectations became impossible. I feel like I'm drowning." Keanu wanted to tell her it would be okay, that he was fixing it, that help was coming, but he couldn't. "Not yet. What your name?" "Sarah. Sada Kimu." The name from the termination list. This young woman, crying in a bathroom at 2 a.m., was marked for firing, for manufactured performance issues, for daring to be human. "Sarah, you are not incompetent. You are not failing. You are surviving impossible situation. That takes strength." She looked at him, tears starting again. "Thank you. That's the nicest thing anyone's said to me in months. You hold on, okay? Things change. Maybe not now, but things change. Don't give up." She nodded, wiped her eyes. "I should go. Try to get a few hours sleep before tomorrow. Tomorrow is today. Is 2 in morning." "I know. That's the problem." She left. Keanu stood in the empty bathroom, gripping the edge of a sink. This was real. This was happening to real people. Sadakimu, Emily Chun, how many others? He finished his shift, documented everything. Got home at 6:30, exhausted physically and emotionally. Texted David. "Need to meet. Soon. Have significant evidence." David responded immediately. "Tomorrow afternoon? My office." "Yes." Keanu slept fitfully, dreamed of Sarah Kim crying, of Ronan and Marcus laughing, of a company he'd built becoming something toxic, something cruel. He woke at noon, showered, ate, drove to David's office in Century City as himself, no disguise. Needed a break from being Carl. Needed to be Keanu for a few hours. David's office was on the 20th floor of a glass tower. Expensive view, expensive furniture. David had done well. They'd grown up together, poor kids in Toronto. Now they were here, success by any measure. Except Keanu's success had enabled corruption, had given bad people cover to do bad things. David was waiting in his conference room. Keanu sat, pulled out his phone. "I have recordings, photos, evidence of embezzlement, fraud, systematic harassment, manufactured terminations. It's worse than we thought." He played the recordings, showed the photos, walked David through everything he'd seen and heard over 4 nights. David listened, his expression growing darker. When Keanu finished, David was quiet for a long moment. "This is actionable, both criminally and civilly. Marcus and Ronan could face charges. Tamara definitely. The company could be sued by employees for hostile work environment. I don't care about protecting the company's liability. I care about fixing it. I know, but legally, we need to be careful. If you fire them without proper procedure, they could sue for wrongful termination. They're committing crimes. How is that wrongful termination? Because employment law is complicated. We need documentation. Process. We need to do this right, or they'll walk away with settlements and no consequences. Keanu rubbed his face. How long? You said 2 weeks originally. Finish the 2 weeks. Gather more evidence. Document patterns. Then we act. We fire them publicly, with cause, with proof. We make it impossible for them to claim wrongful termination or defamation. 2 more weeks of this? Of watching people suffer. 10 more nights. That's all. Then we end it. Completely and permanently. Keanu knew David was right. Knew that acting impulsively, even with good evidence, could backfire. Could let the guilty escape consequences. Okay, 10 more nights. But David, I need you to do something. What? Prepare termination paperwork for Ronan Casey, Tamara Briscoe, Marcus Gray, and Linda Collins. Who's Linda Collins? VP of Casting. I haven't found direct evidence on her yet, but her name keeps coming up, connected to the others. I want to be ready. Consider it done. What about after? When they're gone? We rebuild. New leadership, new culture, new systems of accountability. We make this company what it was supposed to be. That's a big job. I know, but it's my job. I created this. I'm responsible for fixing it. After leaving David's office, Keanu drove aimlessly for a while. Processing, thinking. He ended up at a coffee shop in Los Feliz. Sat outside, watching people, normal people living normal lives. Not dealing with corporate corruption or systematic abuse. Just existing. His phone rang. His sister. Hey, someone wants to know if he can come to his school next week. Career day thing. Talk about being an actor. What day? Thursday. But if you're busy, no worries. I know you have a lot going on. Thursday. 10 days away. He'd be done with the investigation by then. Would probably be in the middle of the fallout. But Sam mattered. Family mattered. I'll be there. What time? Really? He'll be so excited. 2 p.m. I'll make it work. After hanging up, Keanu thought about what he'd tell a room of high school students about being successful, about integrity, about using power responsibly, about the gap between who you want to be and who you actually are when tested. He'd have a better answer in 10 days. After he'd proven to himself that he could do the hard thing, the right thing, even when it was costly. That night, he returned to Arch Productions as Carl. 5th night, halfway through the investigation, Gloria greeted him with a smile. Carl, you're doing great. Best new guy we've had in a while. Thorough but fast. I appreciate it. Thank you, Gloria. I try to do good work. It shows. They worked together for the first few hours. Companionable silence. At midnight, Gloria gave him the 4th floor alone. Executive offices again. More opportunities to observe. He was cleaning near the conference room when he heard voices. Meeting happening late. He glanced through the glass. For people, Ronan Casey, Tamara Briscoe, Marcus Gray, and Linda Collins, VP of Casting. All of them together. The people who kept appearing in his investigation. He moved closer, pretending to clean the water cooler outside the conference room. The door wasn't fully closed. He could hear fragments. Linda's voice. The actress situation is handled. She won't be filing a complaint. Ronan, how'd you manage that? Linda, convinced her it would hurt her career more than help. That she'd be labeled difficult. Blacklisted. She's young, scared. She'll keep quiet. Tamara, good. That's the 3rd one this year. We need to be more careful. Eventually, someone's going to talk. Marcus, not if we're smart about it. Keep them isolated. Make them think they're the problem. Make them doubt themselves. It's worked so far. Ronan, Reeves trusts us completely. He's never questioned anything. As long as the films make money, he stays out of operations. We have free reign. Linda, lucky for us, he's naive. Thinks everyone operates with integrity just because he does. They laughed again. That sound, that casual contempt. For him, for the people they hurt, for basic decency. Keanu recorded everything. Every word, every laugh. Evidence of conspiracy, of systematic abuse, of a complete betrayal of trust. When they finally left the conference room around 1 a.m., Keanu was still there. Still cleaning. Still invisible. They walked right past him without a glance. Ronan actually dropped a coffee cup near Keanu's cart, didn't pick it up, just kept walking. Expected the janitor to handle it. Because janitors weren't people with dignity. They were service. Invisible. Beneath notice. Keanu picked up the cup, added it to his trash bag, kept working. 10 more nights. He reminded himself. 10 more nights, and this ended. He worked until 6 a.m., went home. Slept. Woke up and did it again. Saturday night, 6th night. The building was quieter on weekends. Fewer people working late, but some still there. The dedicated, the desperate, the ones who couldn't say no. Keanu found Jason Riley and Mia Torres in a conference room at midnight. Both young actors, early 20s. Running lines. Looking exhausted. He knocked gently, the way he'd learned to do. Not intrusive, just present. Sorry to bother. Need to empty trash. They barely looked up. Sure, go ahead. He worked quietly, listening to them talk. Jason, I can't do this anymore. 16 hours today. The director keeps changing the scene. I have an audition for another project tomorrow, but I'm too tired to prepare. Mia, if we complain, they'll replace us. The contract says they can demand whatever hours they want. No limites. Jason, I thought Reeves was one of the good ones. I thought his company was different. Mia, maybe he doesn't know. Maybe he doesn't care. Either way, we're stuck. Keanu wanted to tell them. Right then. Wanted to say, I'm Keanu Reeves, and I do care, and I'm fixing this. But he couldn't. Not yet. He finished, left them alone. Walked to the bathroom. Looked at himself in the mirror. Carl Bauer looked back. Tired. Worn. Invisible. But underneath, Keanu Reeves was there. Listening. Learning. Getting angry. Getting ready. 10 more nights became 9. Then 8. Each shift, more evidence. More stories of suffering. More proof of systematic corruption. By the 10th night, Keanu had compiled a devastating case. Hours of recordings. Hundreds of photos. A list of 14 employees who'd been targeted, harassed, or wrongfully terminated. Financial documents showing embezzlement totaling over $300,000. It was comprehensive, undeniable, actionable. That night, his last night as Carl, he worked his usual shift. Gloria pulled him aside during break. Carl, I gotta say, you're one of the best we've had. You thinking about staying long-term? Maybe. We see how it goes. Well, I hope you do. It's nice having someone reliable. Gloria, can I ask you something? Sure. How long you work here? At this building? 10 years. It always like this? People working so late, so stressed. Gloria's face changed. Became sad. No. Used to be better. About 4 years ago, things changed. New managers came in. Mr. Reeves gave them control while he focused on acting. And ever since, it's been different. People are unhappy. Turnover is high. I hear things, late at night. People crying. People yelling. It's not good. Why nobody says something? To who? HR? Tamara runs HR. She's part of the problem. To Mr. Reeves directly? Nobody has access to him. And even if they did, who's going to believe the word of a junior employee over senior management? Sad situation. Yeah, it is. But what can we do? We just work here. We're nobody. Keanu wanted to tell her she wasn't nobody. That she'd been crucial to this investigation. That her kindness and honesty had helped him see the truth. But he stayed in character. Maybe somebody fix it someday. Maybe. I hope so. At 6 a.m., Keanu's final shift as Carl ended. He said goodbye to Gloria, to Luis, to Chun. They'd become familiar. Colleagues. People he'd worked alongside. They'd never know who he really was. Would probably find out eventually when the story came out. Would feel betrayed maybe. Or vindicated. He drove home, removed the wig, the facial hair, the contacts. Keanu Reeves looked back at him in the mirror. Time to stop hiding. Time to act. He called David. I'm done. I have everything we need. When can we move? I've prepared all the paperwork. HR consultant is on standby. Security is briefed. We can do this Monday if you want. Monday, 3 p.m. All staff meeting. Mandatory attendance. Tell them it's about the future of the company. What are you going to do? I'm going to show them the truth. All of it. And then I'm going to fire everyone who created this nightmare. It's going to be dramatic. Good. It should be. These people deserve dramatic justice. They deserve to see that actions have consequences. Okay. Monday at 3. I'll set up. Keanu spent the weekend preparing, reviewing all the evidence, creating a presentation, writing a speech. This needed to be done right. Needed to be clear, undeniable, and public. Sunday night, he barely slept. Nervous energy. Tomorrow, everything changed. Tomorrow, he stopped being invisible. Tomorrow, he used his power the way it was supposed to be used. To protect, to correct, to make things right. Monday morning, he dressed carefully. Not casual, not too formal. Professional. Serious. The outfit of someone about to do something important. At 2 p.m., he arrived at Arch Productions. As himself, Keanu Reeves walking through the lobby. People stared, whispered. He never came to the office unannounced. He went straight to the conference room. The largest one. Capacity for 150. David was there with the IT person, setting up the projector. You ready? As ready as I'll ever be. At 2:45, employees started filing in. Confused. Curious. Mandatory meetings were rare. All staff meetings even rarer. Something big was happening. By 3, the room was packed. Every employee, 120 people, standing room only. The 4 executives, Ronan, Tamara, Marcus, Linda, sat in the front row, looking smug, thinking this was probably good news. Maybe announcement of a new project. Maybe bonuses. They had no idea. Keanu stood at the front of the room, waited for everyone to settle. The murmur of voices died down. All eyes on him. He took a breath. This was it. The moment everything changed. Time to become visible. Keanu looked out at the assembled faces. 120 people who'd made this company what it was. Some thriving, some suffering, all about to witness something unprecedented. He noticed Sarah Kim in the middle rows, Emily Chun near the back, Jason Riley and Mia Torres standing against the wall. All the people he'd heard crying, complaining, suffering. They looked nervous, probably thought this meeting was about layoffs, about their jobs disappearing. They had no idea they were about to be saved. Thank you all for coming, Keanu began, his voice calm but carrying authority. I know mandatory meetings are disruptive. I appreciate your time. What I'm about to tell you will be difficult to hear, but it's necessary, and it's true. He paused. Ronan Casey looked impatient. Tamara Briscoe was checking her phone. They weren't worried. They thought they were untouchable. 3 weeks ago, I received an anonymous email. It suggested that this company, Arch Productions, the company I built to be different, to be ethical, to be a place where people could create without exploitation, had become toxic. That people were suffering. That the culture I'd tried to create had been corrupted. The room was completely silent now. People leaning forward. Ronan had stopped looking impatient, started looking wary. I couldn't verify these claims through normal channels, because the people I would normally ask, my senior management team, might be part of the problem. So I decided to investigate personally, but not as Keanu Reeves, owner and public face, as someone else, someone invisible, someone who could see what really happens when people think nobody important is watching. Confusion spreading through the room. Where is this going? For the past 2 weeks, I worked here as a night janitor, under an assumed name, with altered appearance. I cleaned your offices, emptied your trash, listened to your conversations, saw your documents, witnessed what actually happens in this company after hours. Gasps. People looking at each other. Disbelief. Shocked. Gloria Martinez's hand flew to her mouth. She recognized the story. Recognizit Karl Bauer. The 4 executives in the front row had gone pale. Tamara's phone slipped from her hand. Marcus Gray looked like he might vomit. Ronan Casey's face transitioned from shock to fury to calculation. Already thinking about lawyers. Linda Collins just stared, frozen. What I found was worse than the email suggested. I found systematic corruption, financial fraud, embezzlement, sexual harassment, labor abuse, and a conspiracy among senior management to hide these problems, silence complaints, and destroy anyone who threatened to expose the truth. Keanu nodded to David, who activated the projector. The screen behind Keanu lit up with the first piece of evidence. The termination list from Ronan's trash. 12 names. 12 junior employees marked for elimination. This is a document I found in VP of Development Ronan Casey's office. A termination list. 12 employees to be fired by end of quarter. Not for performance issues. Not for legitimate cause. But for complaining. for pushing back, for daring to advocate for themselves. Ronan stood up. This is outrageous. That document is taken out of context. Those terminations were legitimate. Sit down, Ronan. I'm not finished. The tone stopped him. Keanu's voice had gone cold, harder than anyone had ever heard. Ronan sat. Next slide. Email thread between Ronan and Tamara about Emily Chun. This is an email exchange between Ronan Casey and HR Director Tamara Briscoe, discussing Emily Chun, a junior editor who had complained about working 80-hour weeks without overtime compensation. Rather than address her legitimate complaint, they conspired to manufacture fake performance issues to force her to resign. Emily Chun gasped audibly in the back of the room. People turned to look at her. She was crying. Tamara stood now. Those emails are private. You had no right. I had every right. This is my company. These are my employees. And you used your positions to abuse them. Next slide. The audio recording. Keanu played it. Ronan and Marcus discussing the $50,000 bribe. Their voices clear. Their words damning. The payment went through. 50 grand wired to the offshore account like you asked. Good. That should secure us the distribution deal. Reeves will never know. The room erupted. People talking over each other. Shocked. Angry. Marcus Gray tried to stand, stumbled, sat back down. His career was over. He knew it. Keanu played more audio. The conversation with Linda Collins about silencing an actress who'd complained about harassment, about threatening her career, about systematic intimidation. By the time the evidence presentation finished, 15 minutes had passed. 15 minutes of undeniable proof. Photos, audio, documents. A pattern so clear, even the best lawyer couldn't spin it. The four executives sat in their chairs, destroyed, exposed. Everyone in the room had seen, had heard. There was no coming back from this. Keanu turned to face them directly. Ronan Casey, Tamara Briscoe, Marcus Gray, Linda Collins. You are terminated. Effective immediately. Security will escort you to your desks to collect personal belongings. You have 15 minutes to leave the building. Your access to all company systems has been revoked. Your corporate cards are canceled. You will receive no severance. And we are pursuing criminal charges for embezzlement and fraud. Ronan found his voice. You can't do this. We have contracts. We have rights. You'll be hearing from our lawyers. David Chin stood up. Your contracts contain morality and ethics clauses. You violated those clauses systematically. Termination for cause. No evidence. And Mr. Casey, you should be more worried about criminal prosecution than civil suits. The evidence of financial crimes is overwhelming. Security entered the room. 4 guards. They moved toward the executives. Tamara started crying. Keanu, please. I can explain. I was just following orders. Following orders isn't a defense. You had a choice. You chose to abuse your power. Now you face consequences. Marcus tried a different approach. The money. I can return it. All of it. Please. You should have thought of that before you stole it. Linda said nothing. Just stood, stared at Keanu with hatred, and walked out flanked by security. The other 3 followed. Tamara still crying. Ronan still angry. Marcus looking broken. The room watched them leave. Then erupted again. People talking. Some applauding. Some crying. All of them processing what had just happened. Keanu held up his hand. Silence gradually returned. I know this is shocking. I know you have questions. But first, I need to say something to all of you who have been suffering. Sadakimu, Emily Chun, Jason Riley, Mia Torres, all of you whose names I learned over the past 2 weeks. All of you who've been working impossible hours, being screamed at, being threatened, being told you're not good enough when the truth is you're more than good enough. You're exceptional, and you've been surviving an impossible situation. His voice cracked slightly. Real emotion. I failed you. I built this company with good intentions, but I wasn't paying attention. I trusted the wrong people. I gave them too much power. I didn't create systems to protect you from abuse. That's on me. And I am deeply, deeply sorry. Sarah Kim was crying openly now. Jason had his arm around Mia, both of them overcome. Emily Chun had her face in her hands. But I promise you, starting today, everything changes. We're rebuilding this company. new leadership, new culture, new systems of accountability. And you, all of you, will have a voice in how it's rebuilt. Because this is your company as much as mine. You do the work. You create the product. You deserve to be heard. He outlined the immediate changes. Independent HR consultant coming in to handle the transition. Open door policy for complaints. Creation of an employee council with representatives from every department. Mandatory ethics training for all management. Financial transparency. Strict limits on work hours with fair overtime compensation. I'm not asking you to trust me blindly. I know trust is earned, so I'm going to earn it. By being present. By listening. By making sure this never happens again. When he finished, there was a long moment of silence. Then someone started clapping. Then another. Then the whole room was standing, applauding. Not for him. For themselves. For surviving. For vindication. For justice finally served. Keanu saw Gloria Martinez in the back. Tears streaming down her face. He caught her eye, nodded. She nodded back. Understanding passing between them. Carl Bauer had been real. Had mattered. Had helped expose the truth. After the assembly broke up, people lingered. Wanted to talk. To thank him. To share their stories now that it was safe. Emily Chen approached, nervous. Mr. Reeves, I'm Emily. I just wanted to say thank you. I thought I was crazy. Thought I was failing. Finding out it was manufactured. That makes everything make sense. Emily, you were never failing. You were being sabotaged. I'm sorry you went through that. Are we really going to rebuild? Really going to change? Yes. And I want you involved. I've reviewed your work. You're talented. Creative. Exactly the kind of person who should have a voice in how this company operates. She started crying again. Relief. Gratitude. Hope. Sarah Kim came next. I don't know if you remember me, but I remember. Bathroom. 2 a.m. You told me about working 80 hours. Being called incompetent. I remember. She looked confused. How do you remember that? That was with the janitor. With Carl. I was Carl. Understanding dawned. Oh my God. That was you. You talked to me. Told me I wasn't failing. That I was surviving. And I meant it. You were strong, Sarah. You kept going when most people would have quit. That's character. What happens now? To people like me who are on that list. You're not getting fired. You're getting promoted. We need good people. People who've proven they can handle adversity. People who care about integrity. That's you. Jason Riley and Mia Torres approached together. Mr. Reeves, we just wanted to say we're sorry for what we said. About you not knowing or not caring. We were wrong. You weren't wrong to be angry. I should have known. That's on me. But I'm asking you to give me a chance to make it right. Stay with us. Help us build something better. We will, Mia said. Absolutely we will. The conversations continued for over an hour. Person after person sharing their stories. Their pain. Their hope. Keanu listened to all of them. Made notes. Remembered names. Committed to doing better. Finally, Gloria Martinez approached. She looked nervous. Mr. Reeves, I didn't know. Carl, I mean. I didn't know it was you. I know. That's why you were honest with me. That's why I learned the truth. Gloria, you told me about the culture change. About people being unhappy. About hearing things late at night. That information was crucial. I feel like I was gossiping. You were being honest. There's a difference. And I want to thank you. Officially, you're being promoted to Director of Facilities. Triple your current salary. Full benefits. And I want you to consult with our new HR team about the perspective of support staff. About making sure everyone, no matter their position, is treated with dignity. Gloria couldn't speak. Just hugged him. Tight. A woman who'd been invisible her whole working life suddenly being seen. Being valued. After everyone left, Keanu and David were alone in the conference room. The evidence still on the screen. The weight of what had just happened settling on them. That was intense, David said. It needed to be. People needed to see justice. Public. Undeniable. Immediate. The 4 executives are gone. Building security confirmed they left. Ronan was yelling about lawyers the whole way out. Let him yell. We have evidence. He has nothing. Media is going to have a field day with this. I know, but it's the right story. Boss goes undercover, exposes corruption, fires abusers. That's a story I can live with. What about the criminal charges? For Marcus and Ronan, I want them prosecuted. Fully. They stole money. Probably from other companies, too. That needs consequences beyond just losing their jobs. David nodded. I'll coordinate with the district attorney. The evidence is solid. They'll likely plead out to avoid trial. I don't care if they plead or go to trial. I just want them held accountable. Keanu's phone buzzed. Text from his publicist, Amanda. Media calling. What's the statement? He typed back. Schedule 1 interview. Variety. Tomorrow. Serious, not sensational. I'll explain everything once. Over the next few hours, the story leaked. Someone at the company told someone who told someone. By evening, it was on social media. By night, it was on entertainment news. Keanu Reeves goes undercover as janitor, exposes corruption at his own company. The responses were mixed, most praising his courage, some questioning why he needed to go undercover rather than just asking questions, some criticizing the public humiliation of the executives. Keanu ignored most of it, focused on what mattered: the company, the people, the rebuilding. Tuesday morning, he went back to Arch Productions. As himself, walked through the offices during business hours, stopped to talk to people, asked how they were doing, really listened to the answers. Emily Chun was at her desk, looked up, smiled when she saw him. Morning, Mr. Reeves. Morning, Emily. And call me Keanu. We're colleagues, not hierarchy. That'll take getting used to. I know, but we're changing culture, starting with language. He spent the day in meetings, with the interim management team, with the HR consultant, with department heads, planning, rebuilding, creating new structures of accountability. Around 3 p.m., he went to the break room. Gloria was there, training a new custodian, showing them the proper way to organize a supply cart. Gloria, got a minute? Of course. They stepped into the hallway. I want your honest opinion. What else needs to change? Beyond what we've already discussed. Gloria thought about it. The way you're asking me that question, like my opinion matters, that's already a change. But if you really want to know, the overnight shift needs better equipment. The vacuum cleaners are old. The floor buffers barely work. We make do, but newer equipment would make the work easier. Safer. Consider it done. Make a list. Whatever you need. And Gloria, your opinion does matter. Always has. I just wasn't listening before. You're listening now. That's what matters. The Variety interview happened Wednesday. The reporter, Lisa Chun, met him at his house. Respectful. Professional. Not looking for scandal, but for understanding. Keanu, this is an unusual story. Going undercover in your own company. What made you do it? He told the truth. All of it. The anonymous email. The decision to investigate personally. The 2 weeks as Carl Bauer. What he'd found. How it had made him feel. I was horrified. These were things happening in my name. Under my brand. I'd built this company to be different, to be ethical, and I'd failed. Not in intention, but in execution. I trusted the wrong people. I'd been too absent, and people suffered because of my failures. Some critics say you could have just done a formal investigation. That going undercover was theatrical. A formal investigation would have been compromised from the start. The people I'd normally ask to investigate were the people who needed investigating. They'd have covered their tracks. Buried evidence. Intimidated witnesses. The only way to see the truth was to be invisible. To see what actually happens when people think nobody important is watching. What did you learn? That power corrupts when not checked. That trust must be verified. That people at the bottom often see the truth more clearly than people at the top. And that invisibility, being treated as less than human, is something I'll never forget. Gloria Martinez, Luis Chun, all the custodial staff I worked with, they're invisible to most people. They shouldn't be. Everyone deserves dignity. Everyone deserves to be seen. The interview ran Friday. It was fair, honest, showed both the problems and the solutions. The media cycle continued for a few weeks. Lots of commentary, lots of opinions, but the core story remained. Man goes undercover. Font corruption. Fixes it. Public justice served. A month after the firings, the company was stabilizing. New VP of development hired. Brilliant woman with impeccable ethics record. New CFO brought in. Former forensic accountant who specialized in catching fraud. New HR director, an expert in organizational culture change. Linda Collins's replacement was still being interviewed, process involving input from junior staff. The Employee Council held its first meeting. Representatives from every department. Sarah Kim was elected by her peers. She took the responsibility seriously, came prepared with lists of concerns, suggestions for improvement. We need better communication about projects. Often we don't know what's happening until the last minute. Creates unnecessary stress. Keanu nodded, taking notes. Agreed. We'll implement weekly department updates. Transparent timeline sharing. Anything else? Mental health resources. The culture was so toxic that a lot of people are dealing with trauma. Therapy access would help. We'll add mental health coverage to insurance. And I'll bring in a workplace counselor. Confidential. Available to anyone who needs it. The changes continued. Slowly. Imperfectly. But visibly. Culture didn't transform overnight. Trust wasn't rebuilt in weeks. But progress was real. Measurable. People smile more. Laugh more. The constant undercurrent of fear that had permeated the building was fading. 3 months after the firings, the company released a new film. An indie drama about a young woman navigating a toxic workplace. Directed by a first-time filmmaker. Produced by Emily Chun, now associate producer. Starring Jason Riley and Mia Torres in supporting roles. It premiered at Sundance. Got a standing ovation. Critics called it painfully honest and necessary viewing. Distributors fought over it. It wasn't just good. It was real. Because the people who made it had lived it. Keanu attended the premiere. Watched from the back of the theater. Saw the audience react. Saw people crying. Saw the recognition of shared experience. This was what he'd wanted. Art that mattered. Stories that changed people. After the screening, Emily approached him. Thank you. For everything. For exposing the truth. For giving me a chance. For believing in this project. You made a beautiful film, Emily. That's all you. Your vision. Your leadership. But I wouldn't have had the opportunity if you hadn't done what you did. If you hadn't been willing to see. 6 months after the firings, criminal proceedings concluded. Marcus Gray pleaded guilty to embezzlement. 18 months in prison, 3 years probation, full restitution. Ronan Casey fought the charges, went to trial, was found guilty. 2 years in prison. Tamara Briscoe took a plea deal. Probation, community service, permanently barred from HR work. Linda Collins faced civil suits from 3 actresses. Settled out of court. Her career over. Justice wasn't perfect. The sentences seemed light for the damage done. But consequences were real. Public. Recorded. The message was clear. Abuse of power has costs. A year after going undercover, Keanu stood in the renovated headquarters of Arch Productions. The company had moved to a new space. Bigger. Brighter. Designed with input from employees. Break rooms that were actually comfortable. Windows everywhere. Natural light. Space for people to think. To create. To exist as humans, not just workers. Gloria Martinez had an office now. Small but hers. Director of facilities. She hired and trained her team. Set standards. Ensured everyone in support roles was treated with dignity. Sarah Kim had been promoted twice. Now producer. Running her own projects. Mentoring junior staff the way she wished she'd been mentored. The company was profitable. More profitable than before, actually. Turned out that not exploiting people, not burning them out, not creating constant fear, that was good for business. Happy employees did better work. Retention was up. Creativity was up. The films were better. Keanu gave fewer interviews now. Let the work speak. But when asked about that 2-week period when he'd been Carl Bauer, he always said the same thing. It changed me. Showed. Seeing was what counted. Being willing to become invisible, to understand visibility, that was what made the difference. 2 years after the investigation, Keanu sat in a production meeting, planning the next slate of films. Emily Chun was there. Sada Kimu. Jason Riley contributing from set where he was filming. Gloria sat in as representative of support staff, ensuring their perspective was included in planning. This was the company now. Collaborative. Transparent. Imperfect, but improving. Built not just on Keanu's vision, but on collective wisdom. On lessons learned the hard way. on the understanding that power must be checked, that trust must be earned, that everyone, from the star to the janitor, matters equally. After the meeting, Keanu walked through the building, stopped to talk to people, learn names, remembered stories, stayed visible, present, accountable. In the basement, near the custodial office, he saw the supply closet where he'd spent his breaks as Carl, where he'd sat with Gloria, drinking bad coffee, listening to her truth. He stepped inside. The space looked the same. Different equipment now, newer, better, but the same basic room, where invisible people gathered, where truth was spoken, where he'd learned to see. His phone buzzed. Text from David. Marcus Gray is out of prison. 18 months served. Thought you should know. Keanu stared at the message. 18 months for stealing $300,000 and helping destroy countless lives. It didn't feel like enough. Would never feel like enough. But consequences had been served. Publicly, the story had been told. Other companies had taken notice, changed policies, improved oversight. The ripple effect was real. He texted back. Thanks for letting me know. He's out. Can't hurt anyone here anymore. He left the supply closet, returned to the main floor. Back to the work. Back to the people. Back to the daily practice of building something good. Something real. Something worthy of the second chance he'd been given. Because that's what this was. A second chance. To build the company he'd meant to build. To be the leader he'd meant to be. To ensure that invisibility was remembered, not as a 2-week investigation, but as a permanent lens. A way of seeing, a way of being, a way of ensuring that everyone, no matter their role, no matter their title, was seen, was valued, was treated as fully human. That was the legacy, not the undercover operation, not the dramatic firing, but the culture that emerged after. The commitment to never forget, to never look away, to never again let power blind him to suffering. Carl Bauer had been a disguise, but the lessons learned were real, permanent, transformative. And every day, Keanu worked to honor those lessons, to see everyone, to listen to everyone, to remember that the view from the bottom was often the truest view of all.